Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing well. This is Jeff Abel. Thanks for taking some time to watch this webinar about National Volunteer Appreciation Week. I hope that as National Volunteer Appreciation Week approaches, we can start to think of some ways that we can use. This is a great way to show support to our volunteers, thank them for all they do, because we are a volunteer-driven organization. So in addition to talking about National Volunteer Appreciation Week as a whole, we're going to talk about what Special Olympics Maryland is going to do from the state office, and then also some things that our local programs can do in conjunction with what we are going to take on. So National Volunteer Appreciation Week this year is April 7th through 13th, 2019. That is coming up very quickly, so we thought it would be a good time to get everybody together and talk about some opportunities about the week. But just by way of introduction, National Volunteer Week is put on by the Points of Light Foundation, which recognizes volunteer service in the country and around the world. And it's an opportunity to celebrate the impact of volunteer service and the power of volunteers that build stronger communities. That's taken from their website. I just thought that was really good language to describe what we're doing. This was started in 1974 and has grown each year. So the power of a volunteer, the Corporation for National and Community Service and the Department of Labor Statistics estimates that the value of a volunteer hour is approximately $24.69. Of course, our volunteers are priceless, so I don't put a dollar value on it to minimize or inflate what our volunteers do for us, but that's a number that's accepted across the country. It's estimated that across the country, there's $482 million worth of volunteer service done every year, which is really cool. It's something to consider using as you are, looking at the number of volunteers that you have, the amount of time that they're spending, and it's something that we at the state office do. So we're estimating that there's about 264,554 hours of volunteer service every year from the statewide organization, from all of our volunteers. That means our local programs, our state office, summer games, the plunge, your local qualifiers, your week-to-week practices. We're estimating that it's about 264,554 hours. Using that 2469 amount, we're estimating that it's worth about $6.3 million. So that's a huge contribution from our volunteers across the state. You as area leaders are included in that number, and we certainly appreciate all that you do as well. So the Points of Light Foundation, as they are the sponsors of National Volunteer Appreciation Week, I thought it would be good to take a look at what they are doing. So they are accepting nominations for the Daily Points of Light, which is a national award and a way to nominate an outstanding volunteer for recognition. The link is right here, which will take you to the site for the Points of Light Foundation. So if you choose to, if you have an outstanding volunteer, you can certainly go to this site, fill it out. It would be a great way to, recognize that volunteer in your local program that goes above and beyond. They're also doing a social media campaign, #IVolunteer, which we're going to talk a little bit about. So they have these #IVolunteer signboards that volunteers can print out. You can get them right from the Points of Light website. And we're going to be doing it from the state office. Excuse me. We're going to be encouraging volunteers to print out the #IVolunteer sign and share why they volunteer with Special Olympics Maryland. And of course, don't forget to tag at SP Olympics MD on Twitter and Instagram and any social media handles that your local program may have. So, it's a great way to not only recognize your volunteers on social media, it gives them some recognition with their followers, but it's a good source of advertising that Special Olympics Maryland and our local programs are absolutely driven by the power of volunteers. So Special Olympics Maryland as I've started to talk about, we're going to celebrate in a few different ways, and we're going to talk about each one. So we're definitely going to be hitting social media the week of April 7th. We're going to be doing qualifier and competition thank yous. We're going to do a Thank-a-Thon, and then our surprise squad with the Special Olympics Maryland Clearinghouse, as I like to call it, will be out in the community surprising and thanking some of our great volunteers. So on social media, each day we will be featuring a group of volunteers or a few volunteers who have made a difference in our program. The idea is to highlight different groups or types of volunteer that we have. So we'll be featuring law enforcement to thank LETR for all they do. We're going to be thanking our area leaders for all that you do, our event volunteers and management team members, and certainly our athlete leaders as well, included as volunteers. So each day we'll highlight a person or a few people who fit into those categories. We'll do a profile. We'll thank them for what they do. And then the one key that we're going to add to all of the social media that's going on is if someone wants to volunteer, visit this webpage or fill out an application. What we found through social media, as good as the awareness is, if there's no call to action after it, it's not as powerful. So we're going to use these volunteer profiles of law enforcement, area leaders, event volunteers, and management teams and athlete leaders to encourage other people to volunteer across the state. So you can see Jim and some of our, looks like Howard County athletes, thanking a group from Loyola at summer games. And we're lucky that National Volunteer Appreciation Week falls during a time where there's a good number of events and competitions, qualifiers in your local program. So during our March and April competitions, we'll be doing special thank yous to our many volunteers who make the events possible, including our coaches. So one of the things that we'll be doing, Loyola University is a great partner, and the first day of National Volunteer Appreciation Week is actually the Loyola Qualifier, so we're going to be out there thanking their students and that sort of thing. But certainly as you have your qualifiers and competitions, if they fall during this week, great time to thank those volunteers for all they do to make the competitions possible. Thank-a-Thons, one of our new favorite things to do. We're compiling a list of great volunteers from across the state to call and thank with athlete leaders. So we have an evening where we bring in athlete leaders to the office, get some pizza, and work our way through a phone list of about 150 to 200 different names that we select to get a personalized thank you from athlete leaders. And especially hearing from the athletes about how volunteers have impacted their program, it's a great way to thank them. So you can see we had Jim Schmutz and Anu one time making calls, Thomas Smith and Jesse making calls. So you might be getting a phone call from an athlete leader. I will say if you choose to do a Thank-a-Thon, they're always great. We just be prepared to talk to a lot of voicemails. People aren't always quick to pick up their phone, especially if they don't recognize the number. So I found that those messages are nice to have, and our volunteers keep them on their phone as a quick pick-me-up if they need it during the day. But Thank-a-Thons are a great way to thank your volunteers and something that we enjoy doing. And the last and biggest and most fun, I guess you could say, are our Special Olympics Maryland Clearinghouse surprises. So we get some staff members and some athletes to go out into the community. We sneak up on some of our key volunteers to thank them for their support of the program with balloons and flowers. I've been known to bring a big check for their priceless contributions, but we'll show up in workplaces, grocery stores, school cafeterias, and as I say, no place is safe from our surprise squad. They will be there. I want to play a quick video clip from, we try and be strategic about these as well. So this is a clip from when we went to Aerotech to thank the person who runs, Alice, who runs their corporate social responsibility. But doing this on social media, we ended up getting, so many thousand hits and 500 shares and, more likes than we know what to do with. So this will give you a sense of what we're doing.
Like summer games and the polar bear plunge. She also encouraged her colleagues to plunge into the Chesapeake Bay in support of athletes like us. On behalf of the 7,549 athletes of SOMD, our families and staff members, thank you for helping us build a world where opportunity is not limited by disability. So in all our appreciation, we'd like to present you with this check with priceless obligation.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh my gosh, this is so nice.
All right. So, quick and simple. We surprised Alice at Aerotech, but you could see to recognize her in front of her colleagues and supervisors and all the folks at Aerotech was great. Not only for Alice to recognize her, to recognize Aerotech for all that they do as an organization and get that out on social media. So we're going to be doing some of the same, sneaking up on people and letting them know how much we appreciate them. So ways that you can be involved. First of all, we want to consider who all of the breadth and depth of our volunteer base, I think is important. So, our volunteers, certainly our management teams, area directors included, you are included in National Volunteer Appreciation Week, our coaches, our team managers and sport coordinators, our event volunteers, our interns, our team parents, our drivers, our heads of delegation, our chaperones. We have a lot of different volunteers that we can thank throughout this week. One of the things I do want to reinforce is that we don't include unified partners as volunteers, and that's something that's pretty important because we seek an equal playing experience for athletes and unified partners. We consider both to be competitors together rather than athletes and volunteers separately. So the one thing I would ask if you are going to be doing anything for National Volunteer Appreciation Week is that we don't, while we certainly appreciate our unified partners and our unified teammates for all that they do, we're not necessarily going to include them in our National Volunteer Appreciation Week because they, by definition, are not volunteers, they're competitors. So wanted to reinforce that. So some ways that local programs can be involved. Take part certainly in our #IVolunteer campaign with the Points of Light Foundation. Get that out on social media and get your volunteers to tell us why they love volunteering with Special Olympics Maryland and your local program specifically. I think the more that we can put out there that we have a wide range of volunteers in terms of skills and experiences, and we have a diverse group of volunteers from all walks of life, that's great to show. So let's get involved with that #IVolunteer campaign. If you have a qualifier practice, use that opportunity to thank coaches, team volunteers, and your event volunteers. I've done them at practices before, so getting a piece of poster board and having all the athletes write a thank you note, make it like a big card and give it to the coach. That's a great thing to do. Certainly, cards, things like that. Even just, thank you presentations in front of the athletes and their families go a long way. If you have a qualifier and there's going to be opening ceremonies, it's nice to include National Volunteer Appreciation Week as part of the opening ceremonies to thank the coaches, event volunteers, officials who come out time and time again to support our athletes, unified partners, and families. Certainly get the athletes involved. Using a Thank-a-Thon or other program to engage athlete leaders is a great way to celebrate the week and get more ALPS numbers. But, I think as much as we like to thank people and as much as that's good, a thank you from an athlete leader whose life is affected by the work of the volunteer is, I think, so much more powerful. So the more that we can include our athlete leaders, the better. If you have a volunteer you would like us to highlight on social media, I can't promise that we'll get to everybody, but if you email volunteers@somd.org with their name and why they are an outstanding volunteer, we can certainly work to include them in our rotation. And remember, Volunteer Appreciation Week is something that we do year-round, or volunteer appreciation is something that we do year-round. This week isn't, exclusive. The only time that we should be celebrating. It's just a good excuse to celebrate a little more, maybe have some extra cake and ice cream. But, please don't feel like you have to get everything in between April 7th and 13th. You certainly have the entire year to thank your volunteers when, they're in season as coaches or the events where they do volunteer. And just a quick wrap up, please remember, have fun. There's lots of great ways to thank your volunteers. And I found, especially with the Publishers Clearinghouse and all of that stuff, the more fun you have, the better the thank you will be. So certainly have a great time, be creative as you put these on. You do not have to spend a lot of money or any money. Most of the thank yous that we do are at no or very little cost. And, it's not about the size of the gift, but that's really where we say, in my last bullet point, using your athlete leaders makes it so much more impactful. Remember your unsung heroes that you have in the program. So we have a lot of people who do work behind the scenes who aren't always out in front of everyone, but that doesn't mean their job is less important. So taking time to recognize your unsung heroes, if you want to, have an unsung hero award, or just thank those folks whose work oftentimes can go unnoticed, I think is really important. And like I said, use your athlete leaders. I can't reinforce that enough. The more that they are involved in the thank yous, the better. So whether you're doing a Thank-a-Thon or you're taking, athletes around in an event to thank the volunteers who are there, I strongly encourage that. So again, just a quick thank you for taking time to consider how you might be a part of National Volunteer Appreciation Week. Certainly we want to see a lot of great social media and great events going on across the state. If we can be of any help to you, whether that's helping you, brainstorm ideas, or you want to get some, social media design made, please let us know. Email me, and we'll get you in touch with the right people. But I hope it was helpful to, learn about what the state office will be doing, and that you can start to consider how you might be involved as well. So appreciate your time, and be in touch if you have any questions.